Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Keith Driver, and I'm the Chair of the Planning Committee, and I will be chairing the meeting. To begin the meeting, there are 2 matters of housekeeping. Actions in the event of emergency. There are no practice alarms planned for this meeting, so if an alarm sound, please evacuate the City Hall by going down the main staircase and out to the War Memorial in front of City Hall. This meeting is being live streamed to the Council YouTube page and will be available after the meeting. Please, with speakers, use microphones at all times and speak directly into the microphone, and with participation, please mute the microphones when not speaking. If we go around the members now in the committee office to introduce ourselves, we can, you know who's about. So I'll start on my left.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Mike Sands.
Good morning, Councillor Judith Lubbock.
Good morning, Councillor Richard Laws.
Good morning, Councillor Carly Harper.
Good morning, Councillor Chris Smith.
Good morning, Councillor Jenny Knight.
Wait a minute. Good morning, Councillor Charlie Kane.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Ash Haynes.
And we come down this side.
Hello, I'm David Parkin. I'm the Development Manager for the City Council.
Good morning, I'm Gemma Driver, Senior Planner at the City Council.
Robert Carmichael, Democratic Services Manager. Just to interrupt, sorry, quickly, Chair, I'm also, just as a way forward, we're going to be recording the meetings to Teams, so this will just make a quick noise whilst it does that, so I don't interrupt you in a moment.
Lovely.
Or not. There we are. Sorry, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Members of the committee may use electrical devices to access their meeting papers, and visitors are welcome to use mobile phones and other devices, including cameras, but please use them discreetly, set them to silent, and do not voice or camera flash functions. We will have a short break at 12 o'clock, and between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, if there's any business left, will be resolved. All right, let's be on there. We'll move to the agenda now, and the first one is policies for applicants.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Oliver, Councillor Hampton, and Councillor Fox. I don't believe we've got any substitutes.
Move on to declarations of interest. Anyone? Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 that I want to declare. First of all, on item 4.1, I live approximately 500 metres from the site in question. I'm not predisposed, but I just wanted to make the committee aware of that. And secondly, on item 4.2, I am predetermined, so will not be taking part in the debate and vote, but I would like to exercise my right to speak in favour of the application.
That's fine. Thank you. Any other declarations, anyone? No, thank you. We haven't got any minutes. The minutes will be, Robert, you want to explain? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So with minutes of the meetings, obviously, we've had quite a few meetings, and also I've started this role quite recently and arguably taken on quite a lot of the committee's work. So going forward, it won't be myself in this position anymore. There'll be one of my team doing it, but all the minutes will be up to date by the end of August and presented to meetings in September. So my apologies to the committee for that, but still learning the reins in terms of amount that the minutes are for you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Everyone received their update papers? Thank you. Well, we'll move on now. We are swapping the agenda a bit because we've got members of the public here which to speak on. So we're moving up to do Magna Street car park first, then Leopold Road, and then the Heath House. So we'll move on to Magna Street car park, and I'll invite Gemma Driver to present the report for me, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this Thank you.
Yeah.
The application site is the surface level car park at Magdalen Street. The application seeks temporary permission for 10 years for the siting of shipping containers. The containers would provide flexible Class E use and sui generis uses. The proposals include the refurbishment of the existing toilet block, provision of a management block, refuse and storage facilities, loading and parking bays, access improvements, and other associated works. The majority of the units would be used as workspace, retail and community creative art spaces, with less than 5% of the units providing food and beverage offerings. Obviously, members, you have your update sheets. I do have a verbal update to add as well, as I've received a representation overnight from a nearby occupier. The representation raised concerns that numbers 47 and 49 Magdalen Street appear to have been noted on the application as in commercial use. Whilst that is the case for the ground floor, there are 2 residential properties above. Officers were aware of this throughout the application and the application has been assessed accordingly throughout. The comments also query how access to the rear of the properties would be maintained, and officers consider this to be a legal issue, separate to the planning considerations. The response considers that the car park would generate more income than the proposal in front of us here. This is acknowledged, however, any financial impact to the landowner is not a material consideration, as viability has not been raised as an issue of this application. Further concerns raise that a decision has already been made due to the installation of street furniture and the car park being closed. However, just to be clear that there have been some signs erected on the car park to advise that subject to planning, the car park would be closed. And you'll see from the proposed conditions in the report that any street furniture would be required to be submitted via a discharge of conditions application. The plan here demonstrates the red line for the application. You'll note that a small section of the car park to the north, just up here, is not included within the application proposals. This overhead provides some further context for the site. Most notably, you've got the flyover running across the site and the bridge support columns for the flyover bisect the site. To the west is Magdalen Street, where there are open views into the site, and Grade 1 listed St Saviour's Church is just down here to the southwest. There are 2 existing vehicular access points to the car park. The principal point for public use is from St Saviour's Lane. There is a secondary point up at Peacock Street, however this is gated and only allows for right of access to the site. There is no public use of that Peacock Street access. So this plan in front of you is a parameters plan. The proposals include upgrades to the existing access of St Saviour's Lane, which includes making the access narrower. This would be the only access utilised by the site for vehicles servicing the site, and to allow right of access to Smurfit Kappa, which is located just to the east there. So there would be no public parking spaces. The parking spaces seen on the plan here are for servicing only, where tenants would be expected to use trolleys to take deliveries to and from their units. Adjacent to the parking is a bin store. The bins would be emptied twice weekly on scheduled days. It's proposed for waste collection to take place from St Saviour's Lane, not within the site boundary. Highways have requested for the provision of a dropped curb to facilitate this, which the applicant has agreed to providing. There are various pedestrian access points across the site, denoted by the red arrows. And in total, the proposal includes 30 cycle parking spaces, which has been increased through the application. The agent of the application is also advised that tenants of the units are encouraged to hang their cycles within the units themselves. Hoarding would be used between some of the units. So, for example, these ones on the screen here, there would be some hoarding in between. This comes at the request of the designing out crime officer to avoid negative spaces and areas where people could congregate. A unit would be placed adjacent to the refurbished toilet block, and this would be used for on-site management. An operational management plan has been submitted as part of the application. This document provides the day-to-day management of the site and outlines that a community manager will be on site between 9 AM and 5 PM, Monday to Friday. The public conveniences that are to be refurbished and the management block and bin store would all be locked after hours. However, other areas of the site, it would not be possible to lock. So the photo on the screen here is taken with my back to the residential properties along St Saviour's Lane. This demonstrates the existing access that's set for improvements with this application. Just to the left of the photo, you can see the graffiti on the existing toilet block, and this would be removed as part of the proposals. These photos indicate where the Peacock Street access to the north meets with the Cowgate junction. I mentioned that there would be vehicular access to the site from St Saviour's Lane only, and Peacock Street would be for the gated access, as those with a right of access across the line, across the site, would be forced to use the Peacock Street access. Highways have requested that due to there being no option to use the St Saviour's Lane access, that off-site highways improvement works are provided at this junction. As you can see on the photo at the bottom here, this just involves some road markings, and the applicant has agreed to providing these off-site highways improvements. You'll see there's been a full assessment of the principle of the development within the report. However, in brief, the site lies entirely within the city centre policy area, and approximately half of the site is with the Anglia Square and Magdalen Street Large District Centre. Policy 7.1 of the GNLP notes the importance of flexible long-term approach in promoting a vibrant city centre and allows for the intensification and diversification of city centre uses. Policy DM8 supports development for retail, leisure and other town centre uses within large district centres, providing scales appropriate and in accordance with the hierarchy. Policy GNLP6 acknowledges the need to both retain and promote high density employment space within the city centre, and DM policies further acknowledge that small scale and medium scale businesses are of considerable significance to the local economy. The 86 containers proposed here will provide a quantum of new floor space capable of supporting the function of the large district centre as a destination for shopping, work and leisure. It's the intention that a significant proportion of the units would be promoted for use by small scale and start-up businesses, therefore in accordance with those aforementioned policies. In terms of the uses that relate to food and beverage provision, these are classed as leisure and hospitality uses, where DM Policy 23 states that leisure and hospitality uses should be directed within the city centre leisure areas within which the application site lies. So the proposed mix overall includes a mix of main town centre uses that offer an appropriate range and scale for the large district centre, which are capable of supporting the vitality and viability of the area. The proposals would temporarily remove the public car park from the city centre that currently offers convenience to nearby occupiers and visitors of the site, and representations have been received objecting to the loss of the car park. However, in terms of season ticket holders, parking permits are not issued within controlled parking zones, and therefore the lack of parking provision is a buyer beware situation when relying on the use of a public car park. In terms of loss of parking for visitors and shoppers, the site is in an extremely sustainable location along a principal bus route into the city centre, and the proposals would integrate well with the recently installed real-time information screen just off Magdalen Street. The application includes a commitment also to promote wayfinding for alternative parking options within the vicinity of the site. So the removal of the car park supports the objectives of DM28, which promotes sustainable travel. And policy DM29 actually explains that with the exception of multi-storey car parks, redevelopment of existing car parks for users will be permitted where existing car parks are located within an identified area for reduced car parking within which the application site lies. The scheme is proposed to be delivered across 2 phases. Phase 1 is to the south, and this would comprise 63 units, and phase 2 to the north, which comprises 23 units. The applicant has provided an implementation plan with a timeline that sets out that phase 2 would commence upon completion of installation of phase 1, and it's plans that the installation of phase 1 would be completed by the beginning of October this year, and it's expected that phase 2 would be completed by the end of December this year. This is an extract from the design and access statement. So the site's proposed to be divided up into 4 character areas. Magdalen Street would be predominantly retail and with limited food and beverage offering. This would provide the main gateway into the site for pedestrian footfall, where the scheme seeks to expand upon its prime location by introducing wayfinding features. In this character area would also be the provision of some street furniture. Peacock Street character area, which is the northernmost part of the scheme. This would be predominantly offices and artist space. The layout of the units for Peacock Street character area creates a more intimate and enclosed arrangement, giving the illusion of a more private space away from public-facing units. St Saviour's Lane would be predominantly for startups. The proposal's ambition seeks to enhance the street level interaction in this area. And then finally, you've got the support zone, which I mentioned previously with regards to the servicing arrangements. Some further site photos. This view is taken looking into the site from under the flyover. I want to draw members' attention to the Anglia Square planning guidance note, which sets out a vision for the area under the flyover and references proposals for a retail unit or units under the flyover to reinstate a continuous frontage onto Magdalen Street. It's officer opinion, therefore, that there is an opportunity to reconnect both ends of Magdalen Street through the provision of an active use and a more successful and visual functional link between the land under the flyover and Anglia Square. These views set out the proximity of the site in context of the residential properties along St Saviour's Lane, and also then you've got the public conveniences and the proximity to the Grade 1 listed St Saviour's Church. Neighbour comments have been received regarding impact of amenity to occupiers. The site is located within the large district centre and the surrounding area is characterised by a mix of land uses where comings and goings from the public are to be expected. The proposal would include a low level of food and beverage units. This would be capped at 5%, equating to less than 5 of the units. This would be secured by condition, not only to secure an appropriate mix of uses on the site, but also to ensure that smells and odours are controlled. Whilst the nature of the site would change in how it's used, it's considered that the scale of this change and any resulting impacts with regards to noise, odour and lighting can be mitigated through the appropriate conditions set out in the report. This includes control of opening hours. The introduction of the containers and the mix of uses that they bring are not considered to be incompatible with the surrounding land uses. These views show the context of the site with Peacock Street to the north. This area on the top image is this area that's outside of the application site, but you can just about make out the gated access there. Just to reiterate that this would be utilised only for those with legal rights of access over the land. In terms of appearance, all of the containers would arrive on site in the standard olive green colour that you can see on the screen there. Local artists would be commissioned to paint graphics and murals on certain elevations of the containers and the hoarding between the units. Tenants of the site are also encouraged to display their own signage on the inside of the doors only. This means that the external appearance of the doors would remain the green colour and also provide more distinction as to when the units are open and closed to the public. This is the longest range of the units in the St Saviour's character area, which would give an idea of what the containers would look like when all of the doors are open. These flank elevations are areas in which the murals and graphics would be painted. Again, you've got some more perspective views here from to see different aspects. The most impactful perspective is officers feel from Magdalen Street, where you can see the site would appear most open. The application does include some gateway features, and these would be predominantly on Magdalen Street frontage. The details of these would be reserved for approval via condition. The St Saviour's Lane perspective shows that the closest part of the proposals from residential properties is the existing toilet block, and that is proposed for refurbishment together with the manager's office. This will give a sense of security to the vehicular entrance to the site. In terms of the perspective from Peacock Street, due to the orientation of these units, the scheme's been designed in a way to minimise impacts to residents along Peacock Street. I mentioned previously that there's a more intimate and enclosed arrangement to this character area, and that will allow for more privacy to be maintained to Peacock Street residents. This slide shows the colour palette put forward in the design and access statement and the design approach across the site. On the plan here, you can just about make out the orange lines, and these are where the murals would be located. These are predominantly on exposed facades to the public realm, and therefore would help to contribute to the design felt, to the character felt within the site. The proposals do not include specific graphics that will be painted. However, you've got an idea on the screen here of what may be included within the realm of those colour palette in front of you. By not agreeing set designs, this encourages design freedom and engagement with local artists and tenants themselves. However, in agreeing the colour palette, this would ensure that the character of the proposals are embodied throughout the site to give a cohesive and coherent feel to the development. The applicant has a vision to create a vibrant sense of place, and this is promoted through the design details of the scheme. To further pull on the distinct character that the proposals seek to create, the landscaping plan on the screen demonstrates large super graphics on the floor, which you can just about make out in the Magdalen Street area and the St Saviour's character area. Not only does this continue the colour palette, but it also seeks to draw users through the site and mitigates against the fact that the external appearance of the container doors would remain green. The landscaping scheme does include buffer planting around St Saviour's Alley and other areas of the site. This would soften the appearance of the area and create more privacy between the site and St Saviour's Church. The landscaping plan includes festoon lighting, which you can see sort of zigzagged across here, some planters, and this would create a place where users would want to gather. Details of street furniture, which would predominantly be located in the Magdalen Street character area, the St Saviour's character area, would be reserved for approval via condition. Whilst there would be some street furniture within the Peacock Street character area, it's envisioned that this would be for users of the maker space and office space, and probably wouldn't attract the same level of public footfall in this area. I understand questions have been asked regarding smoking shelters, and following discussion with our licensing team and the environmental health officer and health and safety team, it's a shared understanding that there's no legal requirement to provide smoking shelters on the planning application. So in summary, the NPPF sets out that planning decisions should ensure that developments encourage multiple benefits from urban land, including through mixed-use schemes. It sets out that decisions should aim to promote social interaction, including opportunities for meeting between people, for example, through strong neighbourhood centres. The proposed development would go some way in achieving those objectives, and it's important to note the social and economic benefits the scheme would bring to the area whilst the demolition and construction works for the wider Anglia Square scheme are underway. In an area that would otherwise feel the direct consequences of losing a community core for the short to medium term, opportunities that seek to mitigate this impact are afforded substantial positive weight. The proposals would result in a range of additional benefits, including redevelopment of an underutilised site, contributing positively to the conservation area for the medium term, creating active frontage, encouraging visitors to the area, creating a vibrant street frontage on a key route into the city, providing start-up and small business spaces. All of these benefits amount to a positive contribution to the social, economic and environmental objectives that underpin sustainable development. Members are therefore recommended to approve the application, subject to the conditions set out in paragraph 244 of the officer report. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. We have got 4 speakers, and the first, Charlie. 4 speakers. Thank you. Our first speaker is Stacey Briggs, and you have 3 minutes if you'd like to. There's a little button on there, you push it, turn it green. Yep.
Hi, my name's Stacey Briggs. Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to register my strongest objection to this planning application, one that I feel risks damaging the lives of residents on Peacock Street and the wider Magdalen Street area. I own a home on Peacock Street, directly overlooking the proposed site, a matter of feet away from the front door. That home was recently restored and brought back to the rental market. My tenants live there and work from home there. One of them is a Norwich City Council worker. And now, directly outside their front door, this scheme proposes a pedestrian access point into a wall of shipping containers. Their peace, privacy and safety about to be potentially destroyed by a development that's been rushed through in just over 2 months. I cannot tell you how distressed the residents of Peacock Street are. These box parks are not neutral. They are noisy, disruptive and visually overwhelming. I invite any of you to stand outside one during peak hours and imagine trying to sleep, work, raise a family or live with dignity as hundreds of people eat, drink, socialise and work meters from your door. This is not meanwhile use. This is 10 years of disruption, a full childhood, a mortgage term, a decade of mental health strain, interrupted sleep and reduced quality of life. The Council's own environmental protection team has flagged serious concerns. Their report warns that although there are currently no plans for HVAC or extraction systems, businesses will likely introduce them. As a business owner with HVAC systems, I can tell you that the complaints that we receive are multiple. And while one extractor fan might not seem an issue, add in multiple units over time and you have a creeping rise in ambient noise, a cumulative effect that will make life unbearable for nearby homes. This is being waved through without proper scrutiny. And where is the public consultation? There has been no meaningful engagement with residents. We weren't asked, we weren't informed. Loads of us found out through the press. It's not planning, it's imposition. Even the email about this meeting sent just days ago had the incorrect email address linked, and it was only because I called to check why I hadn't heard back when the error was spotted. When it was corrected, interested parties had less than 24 hours to respond. I can be here today because I work over the road and I'm the boss. Not everyone has my privilege. The impact on accessibility is also profound, and I did not hear any mention about the disabled or provisions. My tenant's sister, who cannot walk more than 30 metres and is a blue badge holder, regularly visits her brother. She currently parks literally opposite his home. If this goes ahead, there will be nowhere for her to park. And with just 30 visitor permits a year, she can't even cover a few months of visits. It's not inclusive, it's ableist. And I don't feel it will help local businesses either. Magdalen Street traders are already struggling. Remove parking, siphon footfall to outlets and containers, many of which will be offices or artist spaces, and you gut the independent spirit of this neighbourhood. Let's be honest, this is a knee-jerk response to Anglia Square's delays. And if this is the best we can do, a decade of metal boxes outside people's homes, it speaks volumes about the lack of imagination, community care and long-term thinking. Even Norfolk Police have raised concerns. The walkways to our homes may be so unsafe that they're suggesting not lighting them at night to discourage people using them.
You need to wind up, I'm afraid.
Could there be a bigger warning sign? This is not regeneration, it's degradation. Please reject this rushed, harmful application and work with us on a better future for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Simon Ames. Yep, brilliant. And you have 3 minutes as well, thank you. Pardon?
I don't think it's going to take that long. Quite short, so. With the removal of Magdalen Street car park, we will lose 206 spaces. What I've not seen mentioned anywhere is the imminent removal of another 250 spaces in the RCP car parks on Boathoff Street in a similar time frame due to the Anglia Square demolition. This omission hides the true scale of what's being taken away. That's a large majority of parking in the area, 450 spaces in total. We're not just losing one car park, we're losing 3. These car parks are generally quite busy. For evidence of this, you can look at the aerial photo of the Magdalen Street site on page 6 of the transport note written by Rossi Young Consulting. You can see it's practically full. This car park being busy is the case much of the time, and the same can be said for the RCP sites also being removed. The transport note written last week by Rossi Long claims that concerns have been addressed by increasing the use of the 80 space car park at Colgate and adding some new signage. But were they aware when writing the report of 2 other large RCP car park sites closing? It's also worth mentioning that Colgate car park is generally half full already, has a narrow access route and is situated in a quiet area with sheltered housing. Do Rossi Long or Norwich City Council believe that 80 spaces in Colgate mitigate for the total loss of 450 spaces? Where are the other car parks in close proximity that make up for this loss of 450 spaces? If Norwich City Council want to use the box park to drive business to the area plus support current businesses, what are people going to do what are people who need to drive going to do? Norfolk is a large county. Where will residents and visitors park? What about existing businesses and their customers on Magna Street and St Augustine's? The Gurney surgery on Fishergate were not aware of the closure of Magna Street car park. Many of their vulnerable patients and carers make use of this. I'm unsure if they have spoken to you, but I think it's likely to cause them a lot of problems. So it's definitely worth speaking to them if they don't know about it. Lastly, how will you enforce permit parking in the area, as there will be 450 less spaces? So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We've got two more speakers, and the first one is Councillor Harper. And you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking in favour of this proposal because it comes at a pivotal moment for this part of the city, and indeed the city as a whole, with the long-awaited redevelopment of Anglia Square finally moving forward. We've a unique opportunity and a responsibility to shape the kind of change we want to see in Norwich. St Saviour's Yard is an example of what change can look like: creative, inclusive, locally rooted and economically energising. By using shipping containers and modular infrastructure, the design is sustainable, flexible and quick to deliver, offering early tangible regen benefits while the larger Anglia Square project takes shape. It provides something essential that long-term regeneration plans often miss: life, energy and local participation right now, not months or years down the line. Now, undoubtedly, there will be some disruption to local residents and traders, and we must acknowledge that. It would be disingenuous to suggest that we can undertake one of the biggest regeneration projects this city has seen in recent decades without there being an impact. But we will do all we can to mitigate and minimise this, starting with alternative parking provisions on Colgate and elsewhere. And we're committed to finding solutions for loading and for blue badge access for local residents. I'd be very happy to meet with the Magdalen Street Traders Association, just as I have from the start, with anyone who wants to discuss this vitally important strategic project. Overall, Anglia Square will deliver 1,000 homes, over 1,000 homes and thousands of jobs, from demolition to delivery and operation. And this is an opportunity we cannot afford to miss. St Saviour's Yard complements the vision for Anglia Square by seeding activity, encouraging footfall and building momentum. It supports the creation of a balanced mixed-use neighbourhood, and we want it to benefit the local community from day one. It has been shaped through local conversations, and there is a clear appetite for it, from young entrepreneurs looking for affordable space, from community organisations seeking new ventures, and I met with many such examples, and from local people who just want to see this part of Norwich thrive again. It's not just a commercial venture, it's a cultural and a social one. It adds to the area's character rather than diluting it, reflects the creativity and independence of Magdalen Street and the surrounding areas. We all know the potential of this part of the city, but we also know that large-scale regen can take time and doesn't always benefit everyone. St Saviour's Yard is a way to ensure that we're not just waiting for change, we're actively shaping it and ensuring the benefits are felt from the start. I'm proud to be the Cabinet member with responsibility for this incredible opportunity for Norwich, and I hope the committee will support this application, not just for what it is, but for what it enables: a more inclusive, more vibrant, more community-led future for Anglia Square and beyond.
Thank you very much. I've just got the applicant left to speak, Max Powell, and you have 6 minutes. Thank you.
Morning, Chair, councillors and officers, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Max Powell. I'm the General Manager at Meanwhile Creative. We're a business that transforms underused urban spaces into flexible, affordable workspace for creatives, startups and community enterprises. We're here in support of our application for temporary and meanwhile uses at St Saviour's Yard, an opportunity to bring life, purpose and local benefit to the site, which has been underutilised for some time. Importantly, this proposal directly complements the wider regeneration aspirations for Anglia Square. While that long-term transformation takes shape, St Saviour's Yard offers an opportunity to deliver immediate, visible progress, bringing positive activity to a currently quiet and underutilised space, fostering enterprise and helping to create a sense of momentum and confidence in the area. Rather than competing with longer-term development, this meanwhile use supports it by demonstrating demand, nurturing local talent and activating the space in a way that makes the wider vision more achievable and inclusive. It also seeks to enhance footfall in the area, supporting existing uses along Magdalen Street. Collectively, the proposals will, if approved, improve this vacant site that has a history of antisocial behaviour. Our proposal is the result of a thoughtful design and targeted consultation. Letters were delivered to local residents explaining what was planned to be delivered in the area, and we engaged with local businesses, including Smurfit West Rock, community groups, including St Saviour's Trust at St Saviour's Church, and key stakeholders, including design officers and highways, all to understand their views, concerns and aspirations. We took this feedback seriously and have made adjustments to the scheme to ensure it's not only functional, but respectful to the setting. We've carefully considered the surrounding land uses, including the residential properties on Peacock Street and St Saviour's Lane, and our plans include clear measures to protect residential amenity, such as locating the very limited food and beverage offer furthest away from residential properties, limiting noise, operating hours, managing deliveries, and ensuring that the design of the site encourages positive behaviour and natural surveillance. The temporary structure is a single story, positioned to maintain privacy, avoid overlooking. Landscaping and boundary treatments have also been designed to improve the site's appearance and soften its presence. The benefits of the scheme are wide-ranging and immediate. It will provide much-needed affordable workspace in central Norwich, something we know is high in demand. It will support local entrepreneurs, makers and micro-businesses who are often priced out of permanent premises with long-term leases. It will generate local employment and footfall, enhance perceptions of the area and help build a more vibrant and inclusive local economy. For context, since starting our speculative marketing, we've received over 200 expressions of interest from local startups and small businesses. We've delivered similar projects in Bristol, Cardiff and Manchester, unlocking the potential of underutilised sites, supporting hundreds of small businesses and generating local employment, all without putting pressure on long-term land uses. We've seen firsthand how meanwhile use like this can act as a powerful catalyst, activating spaces, supporting communities and providing a test bed for innovation. This proposal offers a way to bring positive use to a dormant site while preserving flexibility for the future. And we believe it's an example of how temporary uses, done well, can support both placemaking and strategic regeneration. But thank you for your time and consideration, and we hope you will support this proposal and help unlock the potential of St Saviour's Yard for the benefit of Norwich. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll ask members now, unless you've got anything to come back with, Gemma, first.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of matters, please. I want to clarify that there haven't been concerns raised by the Environmental Protection Officer or the Designing Out Crime Officer. There has been various engagement throughout the application and, as the applicant mentioned, amendments throughout as well. In terms of noise, members will note on paragraph 244 a series of conditions, and there are quite a few conditions. Some of these, so there's conditions referring to the submission of details for extraction and ventilation equipment if it's required, and that is only if it is required by units. It may not be a requirement. Each of the units come with a small bathroom-sized extraction fan fitted anyway, and that's a standard throughout all of them. So the Environmental Protection Officer's reviewed that and is happy and content with the information submitted in that regard. There was a comment also regarding the Design Out Crime Officer and concerns with regards to lighting. As I mentioned, there's festoon lighting across the site, but also we have asked for details to be submitted of additional lighting as part of discharge conditions application. And then finally, I wanted to mention about impact to businesses along Magdalen Street, and there has been correspondence with the operations manager within the council, and I understand that the operations manager has been in contact with businesses that have raised concerns, signposting them to alternative locations to park and also advising them of the loading availability on street.
Thank you for that. We'll move on now to
Sorry,
David.
can I just add one further thing about that? One of the speakers mentioned the impact of people eating and drinking and basically enjoying themselves opposite Peacock Street. Gemma showed as part of the presentation that most of the food and drink uses are actually clustered under the flyover or on the St Saviour's Lane area. The area immediately opposite Peacock Street is is more of a business function, so it's specifically allocated for that purpose, in mindful of its proximity to Peacock Street.
Thank you very much. Move on to questions from members. I've got two. Might be quick, might be a bit longer. Are they all brand new containers when they turn up on site?
They're all brand new, yes.
Okay, I didn't want any rusty ones to turn up and then they paint it well, so I was a bit worried about that. And two about colour course. There is councillor got a colour thing down Magdalen Street, isn't he? Because we did actually tell one shop to change their colour because they put the wrong one on, which is about 2 years ago. So are we now going to break all that? That seems to me these are all going to be bright colours. No, I'm not against bright colours being down there personally, but I thought the councillor had called down that way.
I think the example that you're talking about is one further down Magdalene Street towards Fire Bridge, where, excuse me, the property had been painted a pretty almost black, and it was a listed building. That was the issue there. And for heritage buildings, we do indeed have a, excuse me, we do indeed have a palette of materials, but this is the palette chosen here is obviously they're not heritage buildings. It is in a conservation area, but it's an area where we feel that the palette of materials can be, thank you, the palette of materials can be kind of more expressive and more vibrant.
Anyone else? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers, for the report. I may have missed it in the report. It was mentioned by some of the speakers about accessibility. So, for example, with the toilet block, it's mentioned it's going to be refurbished. From memory, it's a very old toilet block. I can't remember kind of how disabled friendly it was in its previous life. I don't know, is provision going to be provided to make sure that in whatever renovations it receives it is accessible, and similar to the general layout of the site. Again, apologies if I've missed the address of it in the proposal, but what's in place to support accessibility around these containers.
In terms of the toilet block, as far as I'm aware, that is just improvements to the facade. I haven't been made aware otherwise of any further accessibility improvements there. With regards to accessibility to the units, the units at the front here will need to be raised ever so slightly, and there will be ramped access to those units. So there's accessibility improvements there. I think we might just be clarifying if there are any additional accessibility improvements. So please bear with me.
Thank you. Nearly every councillor put their hand up that time, so I'll work from this end and go up. Councillor Sands first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My question is relating to sort of public seating. I was concerned that the street furniture didn't include that, but I see it does. Given the concerns raised, has any thought been given to the strategic placing of the public seating so that, if people buy food, they're not encouraged to go and sit in front of someone's house or something, so the public seating placed away from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have additional details will be submitted of what that seating looks like. However, we have been advised that the seating will be predominantly along this Magdalen Street frontage where the cursor is just there. And there will also be some just to the back here. And this is the area in which the food and beverage units will be located within this character area. There will be some additional seating in the Peacock Street character area. However, as we mentioned, this is quite an enclosed space and it has been designed in a way to not attract as much public footfall into that area, because it will be for sort of more smaller office units. So this would probably be utilised more as a breakout space for tenants of those units.
Councillor Lovett.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to address the issue of the amenity for those people of Peacock Street. We've heard from David Parkin that it's going to be office and artist space, and so I just wondered, are there any? What are the times of operation of those units, or are they all the same? So times of operation. The issue of accessibility for disabled visitors, have we got any information about what we have on Peacock Street at the moment, and if there are any changes that would take place that would disturb that arrangement? And thirdly, do we know that we've had any response from the surgery on Magdalen Street, the Gurney surgery. And just to say that there is likely to be some there will be some disturbance for people, but I think Councillor Harper's invite to work to find solutions is going to be very important where if some of these issues are not resolved.
I'll come back to you on a couple of those, and then David, I think, might have an answer on some of the accessibility improvements. So in terms of hours of operations, these are set out in paragraph 181, and this is for when the site is in operational use. There are further hours of operation conditions for during construction as well. But so just to summarise, the tenant access to the site Monday to Friday will be 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. and Sunday 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. But customer access is limited to 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and Sunday 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. The hours do differ for food and beverage provision as well. So food and beverage will any units utilising food and beverage will have to close at 9 p.m. And again, just in terms of that placement, that's why we've ensured that the food and beverage and the uses that are less sensitive to residential uses are in that Peacock Street area. We haven't had a response from the surgery. We posted 2 site notices and did sent letters as neighbour notifications to residential properties to properties, sorry, not just residential, that touch the red line boundary of the site. That goes over and above our requirements in accordance with the Development Management Procedure Order. So we have done as wide public engagement as possible as part of the application, and as the applicant set out, there has been a statement of community involvement too, but again, obviously it's difficult to capture everyone within that.
David?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to come back on Councillor Smith's question, the refurbishment of the toilets will be a refurbishment of what's there at the moment, and improvements will depend upon a detailed survey of the condition of the toilets. Councillor Lubbock, you asked about provisions on Peacock Street specifically. Do you mean parking provision or drop curbs or?
Parking provision to see how it might impact on somebody who was a visitor and needed disabled access, disabled parking.
Okay, there's no, I mean, Peacock Street is part of a controlled parking zone, so there's no specific disabled parking bays on within those controlled parking zones. So if a resident has a visitor, disabled or not, they need a scratch card or one of the electronic permit cards for their visitor. There isn't anything exclusively for people with disabilities in that area at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Laws.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, and thanks to the officers for their report. Just a question about the fire risk, just a fairly specific one. I noticed at paragraph 46, Norfolk Fire Service couldn't give a definitive answer about the fire risk, and then in the, well, not in the conditions, but maybe it helps on the explanation of the term. There's an informative that there would be no burning of solid fuel under the flyover part of the site. Could you just explain a bit more about that, and whether there's any other measures that could be taken to reduce fire risk, particularly under the flyover?
So with regards to the consultation with the fire service, they have confirmed that there's existing infrastructure in terms of hydrants in place that would be sufficient. In terms of not being able to give a definitive answer, this was a question raised by the highways officer, and they wanted to know categorically that there would be no issues ever, and obviously we can't preempt for every situation, but the fire service are content that everything they have seen would be sufficient in order to gain access into the site. The informative is just regards to no burning of waste under the bridge, and that's a requirement from highways, just to ensure safety to the bridge structure.
So that is actually a requirement. Yeah.
Yeah,
But rather than
it's
planning.
to alert them of that general requirement, but it's nothing that we would specifically condition because it's covered under separate legislation.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Oh, was it? Councillor Kane, you have a question?
Thank you. Yes. So just a couple of things, I think. Just a question about waste reduction. I wondered if there are or could be any requirements for vendors to reduce or eliminate single-use plastics. And will there be on-site multi-stream recycling facilities? I also feel like we're missing a trick, unless I'm getting something wrong, with the flat roofs of the containers, whether they could be used for greening, or possibly even solar panels. I couldn't see that any consideration was given to green or solar roofing, and sort of renewable energy. Just to come back to, sorry, Councillor Smith's comment again about the accessible public toilet. I sort of have concerns around that not being upgraded, and it is something, whether, I don't know if there's some condition we can put in there, or because I think we should, particularly under the Equality Act, be providing single-use disability toilet facilities.
In terms of the waste and recycling issues you pointed out, as part of the landscaping condition, we have requested details of bin provision, and that obviously is predominantly due to for public use, and it's a request because there will be food and beverage provision on site. We can't enforce or request that there's a reduction in single-use plastics. Unfortunately, that's nothing that we can control through the planning process. Again, I can only assess the proposals that are put in front of us. Again, I hear your point in terms of potentially there are missed opportunities there, but obviously it is a temporary permission as well, and there's a cost associated with providing things such as solar panels that would then later be removed anyway. Remind me, sorry, I think there's another point. Okay.
I think we could probably require further details of the improvements to be made in order to kind of encourage optimization for of the refurbishment. But it is important to remember that it's the refurbishment of an existing toilet block rather than the provision of a brand new one, and it's bringing that toilet block back into reuse rather than brand new provision. So there will be limitations upon what can be done, but we could, if the committee was minded, require a condition to secure details of what was actually being provided, and we would discharge that condition mindful of the comments that are being made at committee at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
Yeah, so a few of my
Just
questions.
one meeting, please. Thank you.
Pardon?
I was talking to the two people next door to you.
Ah, okay, not to me. A couple of my questions have been asked already, but I wanted to go back to the safety bit of it, because I think we've been talking a lot about the Peacock Street housing and the safety outside of there, and I guess I wanted to ask about the lighting and whether that was the fact that we're turning the lights off there, or whether we actually feel that all the safety mechanisms there are going to stop people getting in, because I live relatively locally. I live up to the side of Magpie Road, and I know that people will get into anything around here. So do we think that the safety thing there is actually adequate? But also, for those not familiar with the area, there's also housing on St Saviour's Lane, And there's also housing on Magdalen Street. Like, it isn't that there's just housing in one corner of this, it's that there's housing all around this site. And so what is being done for the residents along St Saviour's Lane in terms of the safety provision? Because to me, this plan looks like it's been designed with very minimal overlooking. And, you know, I represent Cotman Fields, which was designed in that same way with very minimal overlooking. And I can tell you we have people disappearing into these tiny little corners and doing things that they should not be doing. And people will do that. And I'm not convinced at this point, basically, that we've got the safety aspect of this right. You know, what was done to decide on this layout, that this was the safest, particularly for people that have to walk through this area at night, particularly for, there's a lot of people from quite marginalised communities around this area, for example. I'm very concerned about the lack of disabled parking on site. I think that feeds into the safety aspect, actually. So again, what can we do to bring disabled parking onto the site in a way that's actually safe? Because if you're a person with a disability getting out of a car in the evening, that is a really vulnerable position to be in. And provision for parents with children. There's a park just around the corner as well as another aspect of this site that people might not be aware of. So I just wanted to ask what has been done around that, and also on the traffic. Again, it's a safety thing.
Just the questions, not discussions. Yeah, I've got that.
Sorry, it was very rambly.
I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. In terms of the safety, there has been a lot of engagement with the design and out crime officer, and we have done our best to arrange the site that balances the considerations of safety whilst also making this a nice place to visit and not appearing oppressive, because the flip side of providing lots of safety barriers.
Councillor Sands. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. We'll start the meeting again when the councillors are ready. Thank you. And we'll move on to the next one, which is Leopold Road. And I'll ask our planner to go through. Matthew?
Thank you, Chair. So the application is for 4 Leopold Road, the demolition of a double garage and changes to the boundary line to construct 1 new 4-bed dwelling in that location. The application is also the first new dwelling to be considered by the applications committee since restrictions on new overnight accommodation came into effect for nutrient neutrality. This site has secured an off-site agreement to purchase mitigation credits through Wendling Beck. That brings me on to the updates report. So Natural England have been consulted on the application. They have confirmed that whilst the application is not currently agreeable to nutrient neutrality, they are securing credits, and we will not be issuing a grant of consent until credits have been fully purchased if committee are minded to approve. In addition, the updates, the Highways Authority provided updated consultation response in response to amendments to the scheme that were done on their recommendations. They've also included additional conditions and informatives. So the application is currently recommended for approval, subject to the conditions that are listed on the updates report. That is the full list of conditions there. So the site is on Leopold Road. This is a residential street currently connecting between Newmarket Road to this side on the lower half there, and Unthank Road to the other end. This is south of the Ring Road as well. 4 Leopold Road is a semi-detached 2-storey dwelling with a large side garden and a double garage here, with one garage providing access to the road through a garage door, and the other garage fronting within the garden. The south and west boundaries border the Newmarket Road conservation area, which border 123 and 121A, but the site itself is not within the conservation area. A bit of context on the area. The area is a mix of dwelling types, including flats and houses of various sizes, densities, and materials. On the screen are a few examples showing the character and buildings surrounding the immediate area of Leopold Road. So this is the existing site, showing 4 garages. The 2 to the left are belonging to other properties, and the 2 on the right, the white painted ones, these are belonging to this current site. These are proposed to be demolished. This is a more updated photo. So it shows the site has recently had some minor works to it undertaken in pursuit of this works, but have been considered as permitted development. You can see the garages provide little benefit to the quality of the street scene, so we are considering the benefits in their removal and replacement of new development. In the background, you can see the host property number 4 Leopold Road and number 6, which is attached. So this is the current site, the garden of 4 Leopold Road, looking, that should say east, apologies, toward the existing garages and number 121A Newmarket Road. This is a single storey dwelling that shares its rear garden area with the side boundary for this site. Looking south, this faces toward 123 Newmarket Road. Again, the rear boundary for the proposed site shares the side boundary with their garden. And this kind of shows the edge of the site on Leopold Road, which looks south toward the host property number 4, again, where some works have been undertaken in pursuit of the subdivision. The following site plan has been updated to show some of these works, including the subdivision, but the double garage in place as shown there. And the layout of the front garden space has also been shown within the existing plans for number 4 Leopold Road. This is the existing front elevation showing the double garage with a single access point, as well as the relationship between 121A, 121 Newmarket Road, and the host property 4 Leopold Road. And this shows that the north elevation, so again with your back, so it's towards number 4 Leopold Road, facing 121A and 121 Newmarket Road. These plans also show an existing telegraph pole in place, which potentially may be moved, but that is to be considered by the Highways Authorities outside this planning application, depending on if it had impact on the layout of the scheme. This is the south elevation, looking toward the host property, again with the garages in the foreground. So the proposed site plan shows the building of approximately 100 meters squared and the plot size overall of 330 meters squared. And this would be slightly larger than what the host property would be left with, which is 285 meters squared as shown on the plans there. The site would have side and rear garden space as shown, as well as some front landscaping area and off-street parking in replacement of the garages. And this shows slightly more detailed the front garden access, foot access and parking space for one vehicle off street for each property that has been amended for the scheme. The parking space manoeuvrability and visibility have all been agreed with the Highways Authority, and they have confirmed their acceptance of the scheme subject to several conditions, again listed on the updates report. The plan also shows, again, it's a little bit small, provision for EV charging, a bin and bike storage, and the placement of an air source heat pump as well to serve the property. These plans also show wildlife access hold in place on the rear elevation, providing the free movement of wildlife, which would also be secured via condition. The first floor plans show the 4 bedrooms proposed, with 1 ensuite and 1 family bathroom. There are no side-facing windows proposed on the first floor that would overlook neighbouring properties, with the exception of a bathroom window, which is proposed to be obscure glazed and secured via condition that would look toward the host property number 4 Leopold Road. An objection was raised about the rear windows serving bedrooms 1 and 3 regarding the potential for overlooking over the garden to 123 Newmarket Road. This has been recognised as potential harm, but we feel this has been suitably mitigated with a condition and an amendment to the scheme as well, with the lower half of the windows being obscure glazed, which would, when standing from the centre of the room, sufficiently to obscure the line of sight from the middle of the room to the garden of 123 Newmarket Road. The roof plan is a flat roof with a small stepped section. Solar panels are also proposed on the flat roof section, and on the front roof section would be a pitch roof with a front facing gable with internal roof space for storage. The following elevations show the placement of the proposed dwelling in relation to the host property, as well as neighbours 121 and 121A, and also the indicative relocation of the existing telegraph pole that's in place on site. This is a closer view of that, showing the front elevation of the building. The side elevation shows the first floor windows to the bathroom that would be obscure glazed in relation to 4 Leopold Road, which would be it would be on that same boundary with. The rear elevation, as discussed, shows the obscure glaze, the lower half, to prevent overlooking into 123 Newmarket Road, creating only, I suppose, high-level windows that would be actually visible with transparent glass. These plans also show 45-degree lines of vertical sight, which are in line with BRE standards for loss of sunlight and outlook, and have been deemed appropriate for the placement of this building as proposed. And this is the side elevation, which would share the boundary with 121A Newmarket Road. As you can see, no side windows are proposed. A few of these generated images show the proposal in context. We feel that the colour palettes and material palettes are in coherence with the area. The timber boarding as well on the first floor elevation creates a lighter and less dominating facade that we feel mitigates the impact of the scale of the development to the neighbour at 121A. Again, this just shows a bit more of the site in context, both the relationship of number 4, the host property, and the relationship between the two, and the site of the proposed 4A Leopold Road. This is a more realistic insertion of the property in the street scene. Feel this is a considerable improvement to the street scene, uses appropriate choice of materials, a density in line with the prevailing character, and suitable boundary treatments as well, also providing off-street parking for both properties. The application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions and informatives listed on the updates report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, members? Do you want to speak on this? Charlie?
Sorry, just a couple of things. I did have one about bike storage, but I think you answered that. It looks like it's Mike's gone off, covered bike area, am I right? The other question I had was about the trees. So we're removing 3 trees, and they're to be planted. There's then going to be the replanting of 3 trees, and I just wondered what the sort of comparison was in terms of maturity, species, etc. of the new trees being planted.
That hasn't been confirmed. So the trees that are proposed to be removed are generally kind of low quality category C trees with no tree preservation order and not protected by a conservation area. We've seen this as appropriate. The groundworks as well. There's a mature tree closer to the rear of 123 Newmarket Road, which have been sufficiently evidenced that it would not be harmed by the development. Details have not yet been provided as to the replanting of specific trees. However, if this was required, we could secure this via condition. Recommendations have also been included within the arboricultural impact assessment, and any works which have been outlined in that assessment will be secured via condition to be complied with.
Okay, so no more.
Sorry,
questions?
yeah, it was the backstory as well. It's not been detailed whether this would be covered, but suitable space has been provided that we seem is appropriate.
Okay, if there ain't no more questions, we'll move on to discussion. Anyone? Councillor Sands?
Yep, the house is sort of different in style from others in the area, but the area is a mix of styles anyway, so I think it will sit in quite nicely, and the lower floor and the upper floor treatments look sort of quite interesting, so I think it will add to the area.
Councillor Lovick?
Yes, I agree. It is a mix of use in the there are a mix of uses in the area, not a mix of uses. There are a mix of designs in the area and quite a few flat roofed houses. So I think it does fit in very well. I think it's a good use of the unused site, and especially the demolition of the two scruffy garages. It's a shame it couldn't have been two more garages, because it is a tight site for a 4-bedroomed house, but I think it's been very well thought out. Any impact to neighbours has been mitigated, and it's a very sustainable development. Air source heat pump, solar panels, and timber framed. And although it's got sort of it's been well placed within the site with a garden area around. I suppose one might say it's quite large for the site, but I do feel that these days people are less interested in big gardens and more in the place that they inhabit than the surround. But it's a very sustainable location as well, with good public transport and good facilities. So yeah, I'm very pleased to, as a ward councillor, I'm very pleased to see this in my ward.
Councillor Harbour?
Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, as I said at the outset, I live very close to this site, and I think this end of Leopold Road's been a bit of a mess for a while. So it's nice to see something thoughtful going in, and yeah, I welcome it and I'll be supporting this.
Okay, we will carry on there. Our next, or last on the agenda today is speed post, I'm going to do. This has been in front of us a few times, I believe. Different layout this time. And Samuel, would you like to take us through the report?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as you say, this has been, applications for this site have been in previously. This current one is for, so the lawful use remains as a public house. This application, or this site, was at committee pretty much a year ago for change of use from pub to a residential dwelling. That was granted consent. That consent remains extant but has not been implemented. So this application now is under a new owner, and this is for a change of use from public house to convenience store. There's an existing first floor residential associated with the downstairs use that's being retained in the proposals for a slight extension to that. residential area. So this is the site location outlined in red. Gertrude Road is Leicester North on the south side. To the north and east of this is Mousehold Heath. To the west is Sproulston Road, with the local centre there with a co-op, betting shop and the Denmark Arms pubs there. And you'll notice here on the south it says Bowling Green, so that's the designated open space in the local plan that is under the same ownership but does not form part of this application. As we'll run through later, there is protected access to that designated open space, so that's not compromised by this proposal here. These photographs show the elevation. So the one from the west, that's coming from Sproulston Road towards the pub. So it's a double gabled pub with the nice sort of barge boards, gables and fenestration there. So the wider area approach from the east, you can see, although it is visible, it's not hugely visible. So north, that's an alleyway from Mousehold Heath down towards the pub, so it's obscured by the trees, slightly visible from a residential area. You can see that there's a large amount of terraced houses in this location, as well as the old Sack and Bags Works, which are more modern residential flats adjacent to the site. We've got two existing vehicular accesses to this site which serve the pub. There, and we've got the gated rear tillage, and you can see through the gates there that that's the access. So that's on this side. There is the pedestrian access to the open space, which shall be retained. This is the pedestrian gate. This is vehicular gate. This rear area is proposed to be used for the staff and residents of the shop, as well as for deliveries and bin storage, etc. There. So this application. So as an aside to the application, the current owners, in a mistake, removed the original joinery from the property, and they replaced the joinery with white UPVC. Upon when we did the site visit, we noticed this. They were incredibly apologetic. They've removed the majority of the white UPVC, replaced the openings as they should have been, and have commissioned a local joinery company to replace the joinery that they removed without consent on a like-for-like basis. So like I say, it has been removed. It was in error, but they have worked. They haven't argued. They have worked incredibly well with us to get back to replace it. So that will include the layout. You can see there's the leaded lights with stained glass. So it's all of this street-facing elements will be returned to as it was. So this is at the cost to the applicant. This isn't part of the application, so the application shows the windows as they originally were. This element is being dealt with under an enforcement action alongside, but as I say, the applicants are on board with that, and they have worked hard to remedy the mistake that they made. They were apologetic. So this is more examples of the elements that have been removed. That lady's toilet door actually it's not in location, but it has been retained. So exactly the same door can be replaced within the opening there. But yeah, so the leaded lights will be replaced on a like-for-like basis, and we've gone through quite a thorough work with the applicants to source an appropriate joiner, get details of how they can actually recreate these works to replicate what was removed. So this is the photographs of the site at the moment where the openings are boarded up. Like I say again, this is proposed to be removed. This is for information so that you are aware of what's happening on the site, but it's not essentially part of the application we're considering. We are considering the change of use of the ground floor from public house to convenience store, and we are considering an extension to the first floor to provide additional living space to the residential associated with the flat. So these are the drawings as existing: public bath, conservatory. To the rear, sorry, I should have gone to that one first. Here we've got this used to be pub garden at the rear here. This will now be residential garden associated with the first floor residential dwelling associated with the shop. The pedestrian access, as you can see, has been retained through here to the open space. Although not currently in use, access is not compromised by this application. Got disabled parking bay here, shop parking here. We've got a pedestrian access protected there so that they're not compromised by vehicle movements, and we've got cycle parking for 8 bikes outside the shop here. We've got parking spaces for the residents here and space for deliveries, bin storage associated with the shop and with the residents here, and we've got space here in the rear for the residents' cycle parking. So as I say, it's not a change of use to residential, it's just an additional element of residential use within the property. So this is the existing floor plans and proposed ground floor. Then at first floor, so this at the moment is the sort of balconied entrance area, and the proposal is for the extension at first floor here to provide a living area. So as it was originally, the kitchen sort of dining lounge was the only living room space within the property. So this proposal, so it's a 3-bedroom property, retains the bathroom, the bedrooms, toilets as they were. Kitchen will just become kitchen lounge area, but they have a larger sitting room area for the residential amenity of the residents. This is a roof plan, so shows the roof form, so it'll provide a third gable within the form, and the design of the gable is to complement the design of the adjacent gables on the existing public house, so brickwork render timber to match existing. And the main entrance to the shop that I should mention is in that front element. So that at ground floor there's an existing entrance there, so they're reusing that location of the existing entrance, just part of that larger extension. There, and these are says very little by way of amendments to the rear elevations. So the recommendation is for approval in accordance with paragraph 89 of this report. I should actually say that the reason for being discussed in committee today is due to objections. Objections relate to concerns about late night alcohol sales, antisocial behaviour associated with such litter distribution in the area, traffic within the area, because Gertrude Road is a fairly narrow road, and need for a shop in this location.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, and sorry, in the update report, it was recommended by the environmental protection officers that the residential accommodation in association with the shop should be secured by conditions, so it's not let out separately. Although I covered that in the report, I didn't write it as an original condition in the paragraph 89, so that's in the updates report.
Thank you. Move on to questions. I've got one. Is there any restrictions on articulated lorry going up Gertrude Road to deliver into the shop, or will they be sending little vans up or whatever? Because there's a lot of problems outside supermarkets which have been turned in from pubs, if you know what I mean.
There's not restrictions on articulated lorries going up Gertrude Road, but that would not be a wise choice, as you mentioned, for the deliveries to be that type. So van use would be the preference. Yeah.
Okay, that's my question. Any other questions, anyone? No? We'll move on to discussions now. Councillor Sands?
Place has been empty for a long time now. It was a good pub in its heyday, which should have had alcohol sales and various sorts of behaviours. I think it's very brave of someone to open up a convenience store which goes against the national trend. So it'd be really, really good to see it brought into this use. And again, with a very old-fashioned idea of the retailer living above the premises. So I think it's a great idea. I wish them all success.
Okay. Councillor Lovett?
Yes, I agree with Councillor Sands. It's a good use of the building. It's a pity that they took the windows and things out. I know it's not part of this application, but I mean, it just looks, there's such beautiful doors, windows and glass, but so hopefully once that's put back in, it will give the place its character back, and it will look good as a convenience store and not just like, you know, like all the other convenience stores. It'll be a bit special, and hopefully they can find a long-term use for the bowling green. It's obviously difficult to bring it back into public use, but even if it's used as a garden for the for the residents, you know, and the staff, that's something. Yeah, I'm in favour.
Okay, no other discussion. I'll move the recommendation. The recommendation is to approve. Have I got a second for that? Thank you, Councillor Sands. Anyone else? Last chance. Okay, all those in favour, please show. That's unanimous as well. Thank you. And that brings us end to the meeting. Thank you very much.
Yeah.